The first step in our design process involved getting together as a group and brainstorming possible ideas for our toy. The next step was to choose the best toy, keeping in mind the size restraints, the cost of materials used, and how kid-friendly the materials would be that would go into making our toy. The next thing was construction, which involved buying lumber, cutting the wood, sanding the wood down to reduce splinters, and then painting the wood to match each face. Our testing process was very short, as the only real thing to test was whether the wood would splinter when a small child was playing with it, and also testing how smoothly the pieces fit together. One of the main problems we faced was that the original design called for a 2-foot cube, and we struggled to find pieces of wood that would allow for a 2-foot cube to be made. This was solved by reducing the size of the cube dramatically to 4.5 inches on each side. This ended up working better because the weight of the 2-foot cube was way too heavy for a small child. Another problem we faced was originally we wanted to use a 3D printer to create the cube, but the cost of materials for the 3D printer and the cost of using the 3D printer were way too high. This problem was obviously solved by using the wood, which was a lot cheaper and a lot easier to work with.
Our project did really well at FEDD. We tied on 4th with a 75, which is really good. We presented the toy to judges nicely and explained our building strategy with the help of the psychological aspects we used for building the toy. We used a glued cube to explain that the cube was light and the weight was bearable by children and could be easily handled by them. We lagged behind only on one question of the judges. The question was if we experimented the toy on a child. Other than that, we tried to answer all the other questions of the judges with proofs and logics.
Okay, as we can see, some of the pieces of the cube don't fit others well, and the best way to let the cube fit better is use a 3D printer, but it's too expensive and we don't have too much money. And if we could use more time on finding a good way to draw the line on the wood and cutting each pieces carefully of the cube could fit better. And also from the other groups on the FEDD, we could use the magnitude to stick each pieces of wood together. And we spent $25 on the cube, but we could spend more money to choose a better wood because the wood itself doesn't very smooth. And for the every faces of cube, we could make each face color brighter. It would attracting more. It would attract to children better, and those ways too would do differently to the cube.
The most important thing, I think, for the project, as advice to upcoming freshmen, is to get along with your group members, because you're going to be working with people for weeks, and the most important thing is not to see them as just teammates, but like as your friends. It really helps work towards a bigger product. And another big tip is to not procrastinate. I've seen plenty of groups who wait till the last week or sometimes the last day to do their project, and it really shows in the final outcome. You don't want to have your product all be completed in one day, because the judges will be able to tell, no doubt, that you really put it off till the end. And the next big point is division of labor. You don't want one person doing the entire project for your team. It's a group effort, so you want to split it between as many of y'all as possible and have each person have their own part and their own special thing they bring towards the group to make a group project look like a group project, not just one person's attempt to make up for everyone else's lack of effort. And the last thing is you want a project you can be proud of, something original. You don't want to just rehash the same thing that a group did last year. You want to have something you can be proud of, something you can show off and be like, this is my project. This is something I did with my group that's ours forever.
When it came down to designing our toy, we went through quite a bit of research. When we decided that we wanted to make our toy educational, we researched child development. That ultimately led us to the works of the famous psychologist Jean Piaget. Piaget's states of cognitive development helped us understand how we were going to educate the kids. His work suggests that we use grouping to increase learning capability. Thus, each side of our cube has a different grouping of images or items on it. In addition to that, a recent paper by the psychologists Brune and Woodward, which was produced several years ago in the recent decade, suggests that if children are allowed to interact at a younger age, such as the age group our toy is intended for, then their social abilities will be greater than that of other children. Therefore, we decided that it would be also beneficial if the toy was used on a group of children rather than a single child.